Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Fan Art Friday. This week I decided to work on some more Overwatch fan art, and this time I'm drawing Hanzo. Thank you so much for leaving your drawing suggestions in the previous comment sections. It means so much to me that you want to see me work on these drawings, and I always have a ton of fun while working on them. And working on drawings of the Overwatch characters has been really fun so far, so I'm glad to be working on another one. For the first layer of outlining on this drawing, I used a 0.05mm sepia coloured Copic Marker pen. I actually had to buy a new one this week because I've been using this pen so much this year. I've been trying to practice my outlining and spending extra time on that, so naturally that pen ran out very quickly. So I'm really glad that I've got this new one. It was getting really difficult to use the old one. Once I completed the outlines, it was time to move on to the colouring, and for the colouring I used Copic Markers. For the base layer of the skin tones I used skin white, and I made sure to follow the references that I had in front of me and made sure to add the shading to the left side of Hanzo's face. And once I was happy with the first layer of colouring, I then used pale grape and light grape to add some extra shading over the top of that, making sure to add some extra shading down the left side of the face, underneath the eyes and underneath the nose and that sort of thing. To add an extra colour to the tip of his nose I used tea rose, and to add some extra colour to his lips I used the light grape and blush markers. For the colouring of Hanzo's eyes I started off by using Cool Grey 3 and 5 to add the shading to the whites of the eyes, and then for the blue colouring I used pale blue and phthalo blue. For the phthalo blue I added that at the top of the eye to add the darker areas, and then I used the black Copic marker to add the pupil. Once I was happy with the colouring of those parts of the face, I then used a Uni-ball highlighter pen to add some highlights to the eyes, nose and the mouth. After that, it was time to think about the colouring of Hanzo's hair. For this, I used Cool Grey markers, ranging between 3, 5 and 7. To colour in his beard and his eyebrows, I used Cool Grey 7, a really nice dark grey. I also used the Cool Grey 7 to add some shading to the undersides of the hair on the side of his head, and then I used a Cool Grey 5 to add some shading on the top of those areas to add a lighter tone and to show some of the light hitting those areas. I left a couple of areas on that part of the hair blank and then used the Cool Grey 3 marker to add some light shading over the top of that, just to leave those areas more highlighted. I used the same process for the colouring of his hair on the top of his head, by starting off with the Cool Grey 7 to add the darker shading, and then using the Cool Grey 5 to add the mid-tone, leaving a blank area in the middle part of the hair and then adding the Cool Grey 3 over the top of that. Once I'd added all of the colouring and shading to the hair, I then used the same Uni-ball highlighter pen to add some highlights along those highlighted areas, along the side of the head and along the top of the head. And that was almost like an anime style highlighting. Moving on from that, for the colouring of the two ribbons in his hair, they were like a golden colour in the references I saw. I used a buttercup yellow for the yellow tones. For the shaded areas I used a dull ivory, and for the lighter tones I used a raw silk marker. And then I used the highlighter pen again to add some highlighting in some of the patterning and along the upper edges of those ribbons. Onto the lower half of the drawing, I followed the same process for the colouring of the skin tones of his neck. For the shoulder pad I used Cool Grey 3 and 5 to add the shading, and I used the highlighter pen to add some highlights along the top, and I used the same phthalo blue and pale blue to add the blue section to that. In this drawing I wanted to follow the same comic panel effect that I've been using in a lot of my previous drawings. I find it really fun to have the character, like parts of the character, maybe the hair and that kind of thing, overlapping the panel. This is a really great way of making the character stand out from the page. So I followed that same process for this drawing. But this time I decided not to add a colour in the background. I decided to add a thick colour border going around Hanzo's head. And I just wanted to test this process out and see if it looked good. I used a crimson marker to add a bright red highlight going all the way around, and then I used the highlighter pen to add a white highlight going all the way around him as well. I just wanted to see what this would look like, and I really hope it looks okay. At this point, as one of the final touches of the drawing, I decided to add a second layer of outlining with a black 0.3mm Copic Marker pen. I use this to add a black outline going around all of the details of the character, just adding some lines to the facial hair, and generally using the outlines to help make the character stand out and to add more effect to the shaded areas of the drawing. Please let me know what you think of this drawing in the comments below, and if you have any more suggestions for future videos, then please let me know in the comments below as well. I always like reading your suggestions. It means so much that you want to see me work on these drawings. If you enjoy videos like this, then make sure you're subscribed, and any likes or shares on this video are hugely appreciated, and it means so much to me. If you want to follow me on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram and follow along the progress photos throughout the week, then be sure to check out the links in the description box below. And once again, thank you so much for the support on this channel. It means so much to me, and I love working on character drawings like this. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you all soon.